If the US could succeed with building an underground city in Camp Century all the way in Greenland, complete with a nuclear reactor, hospitals, etc., why couldn't they do it down south? This continent might be extremely remote and covered in ice, but if you can handle the cold and the massive penguins, you might uncover some secrets. From sightings of unidentified flying objects to settlements under dozens of feet of snow, here are rumors and secrets of Antarctica. But first, we'd like to give a quick shout out to Rudolf, who says, Zeker, nooit, gehoord over de boot Sinterklaas. Thanks for your valuable insight, and we'd like to hear comments from all around the world. Let us know where you're from in the comments section, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video. Number 9. Little Americas. In the past, there were military operations that weren't always successful to Antarctica conducted by the US. One of them took place between 1946 to 1947, known as Operation Highjump. This was to basically install some kind of presence on the southernmost continent. Another one was known as Operation Deep Freeze 10 years later. What would the military be trying to do on this vast, mysterious continent? The US set up a series of bases known as Little Americas 1 through 5 between 1929 and 1958. These were all located at the Bay of Whales. The first Little America was built in 1929 and left abandoned the next year. Many letters were sent from this location, but eventually it would become abandoned. Finally, radio broadcasting was introduced at Little America 2 on an iceberg, and it's believed that the radio towers are still out there somewhere. From 1937 to 1939, a vehicle was introduced to Antarctica known as the Snow Cruiser. It was left abandoned and rediscovered during Operation Highjump, which we'll get to next. Other rumors state that the Soviets destroyed it during the Cold War, but it's nowhere to be found. A few more attempts to settle on the icy continent would fail, and many would simply float away into the ocean. It wasn't until 1959 when different countries agreed that only scientists were allowed here. Number 8. Operation Highjump. The US Navy was sent to Antarctica, and this required 13 ships, 33 aircraft, 4,700 men, and some Huskies. A few of these dogs were named High Jump and Running Jump, hence the name of the operation. During a press conference, the government stated that Antarctica was a very large continent with a very large amount of untapped resources. You have to wonder if this was the true reason, since they already had quite a bit of coal and oil that the US had access to, especially right after World War II. A group of ships arrived at the Bay of Whales in 1947, where Little America 4 was constructed. Other previous Little Americas were found under anywhere from 10 to 25 feet of snow. Perpetual blizzards made it virtually impossible to fly, and frigid conditions must have made some settlers lose their minds. The ships had trouble breaking through the ice, and paving airstrips led to fatalities. Some even feel as though the Americans encountered flying saucer technology which drove them out of the area. Could this actually be the case? Number 7. New Swabia. As other powerful nations did at the time, the Germans had also sent their people to Antarctica to see what all the fuss was about. In 1938, a freighter known as the MS Schwabenland left Hamburg, Germany during a secretive operation, and a temporary base was established. This was complete with a total of 33 men and some aircraft. The Germans seemed to have better luck flying around in the harsh environment and were able to capture many photographs from the skies. It was located around Queen Maud Land, but the Germans never had any rightful claims to the territory. The Antarctic expedition only lasted for about a year, but there's still quite a bit of suspicion surrounding the whole thing. It's likely that the Germans were doing a little bit of land grabbing for themselves. Some feel as though some war criminals escaped Germany and settled in Antarctica, where no one would dare to search for them. Or would they? Number 6. Deception Island. Norwegians, who are no strangers to cold weather, attempted to settle this cold and extremely remote island in order to hunt whales in 1906. This quickly became a focal point for gathering seal fur and valuable whale blubber. The whale population here was quite abundant and completely untouched by man, and with access to new technologies in boating and weapons, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. There's quite a bit of fresh water on the island, plenty of fish to eat, and despite it being cold in winter, it would certainly be an inhabitable area. That is, of course, if there wasn't for one key factor. The bizarre shape of the island is due to the fact that it's actually on the edge of a volcanic caldera. Once a huge volcanic eruption destroyed the colony, it was difficult to continue living there. So in 1969, they decided maybe this wasn't the greatest place to live after all. Many have attempted to set up research stations here, but with no avail. Here in this photo, we see an abandoned British research station. Some visitors will come here occasionally, but the active volcano makes it nearly impossible to establish a permanent settlement on. Number 5. UFO Sightings, Antarctica. A flurry of UFOs took place from several research stations in Antarctica in 1965. 5 observers noticed things in the sky, which included a strange mix of colors that wouldn't usually be there. They saw red and green lights while being put on Deception Island that were zigzagging and hovering over the island. But that wasn't all. The Argentinian base of Lori Island also had their sighting where they claimed that the lights moved in a bizarre pattern and disturbed the electromagnetic field of their base. After more and more sightings began to pile up with clear UFO characteristics, the Argentine Navy released a press statement acknowledging the bizarre claims. Some photos came out as evidence, but it was kept as confidential info for so long that no one's had the chance to really see them. Some believe that Antarctica is infested with UFO bases, and that's why you're not really allowed to go there. Number 4. Operation Tabrun. A naturally forming bay was discovered in 1904, which was originally used for whaling and would help whalers restock on supplies. During World War II, the British actually attempted to establish a military base here, but we all know how Antarctica is quite inhospitable. This was a part of Operation Tabrun in 1943, which would allow them to establish bases in remote areas of Antarctica, since they were all worried other countries were already doing it. A military base here turned out to be too costly and somewhat pointless, and finally, in the 1960s, it was turned into a research station. The buildings have lost their original purpose, and some have been transformed into museums. Tourists are allowed to visit the site, but not allowed to go too much further. Number 3. John Kerry's trip. Former Secretary of State John Kerry made a mysterious trip to Antarctica in November of 2016 when the elections were being held. It seemed like quite the odd place for him to be at the time. He was the highest-ranking U.S. official who had visited the continent and doesn't really seem all that necessary. On the taxpayer's dime, Kerry and his entourage were photographed almost as if he went there for some Instagram posts. The press would say that it was because he wanted to survey the impact global warming was having and how much ice was actually melting. But could they actually be worried about ancient artifacts that might be exposed if the land becomes iceless once again? Others claim he was actually down there to supervise the usage of an energy beam in order to create hurricanes. He joked about these claims online, saying how he was busted. Don't laugh just yet though, folks. Let's keep in mind that John Kerry was admittedly a member of the Skull and Bones Society at Yale. This is often thought to be a sect of the Illuminati. And has anyone actually noticed the strange shape of this mountain in the background of McMurdo Station from this angle? Could it all just be a coincidence? If everyone else has tried to set up a base in Antarctica, why couldn't the Illuminati have tried too? Number 2. Nuclear test South Atlantic. Now let's talk about what could really be causing some melting of ice sheets in Antarctica. How about nuclear energy or artificial melting of some sort? With 60% of Earth's fresh water supply, there could certainly be good reason for a little bit of melting, plus maybe they could get to some of those resources underneath. High atmospheric nuclear weapons and missile tests were secretly conducted in August and September of 1958 in Operation Argus. 1,800 kilometers south of Cape Town, South Africa, 3 modified X-17A missiles complete with warheads were detonated in the upper atmosphere. There was also some talk about conducting underwater nuclear tests which would release enough steam and mist to melt various ice sheets. It was also revealed that Israel likely illegally tested an atmospheric nuclear explosion in 1979 during the Vela incident. This was in contradiction to the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Or maybe they were just trying to nuke Antarctica to get rid of all the aliens over there. Who knows?
But before we get to our number 1, we'd like to hear what you guys think the world government is hiding in Antarctica. If we think you got the correct answer, we'll feature you in an upcoming video.
And number 1, where are the aliens? Antarctica is certainly the most mysterious continent in the world. There's so much of it that we haven't explored yet, and it's even possible that aliens could be hiding somewhere deep beneath the ice. Many have spotted mysterious flying objects in this part of the world and believe that somewhere is a secret alien base that we'll never get the chance to find. Eyewitness testimonies claim to have seen UFOs which couldn't have possibly been built by humans. The ice of this continent can reach a few miles thick in some parts, which would be a great place to melt a deep hole with some type of laser technology in order to build some kind of hideout. Since we know so little about what's underneath the surface of all the ice, until it melts, we just won't know what's out there.
So which one did you think was the most mysterious? Let us know in the comments section. Be sure to check out more of our videos over here. I'll see you there.